child everywhere.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Grit and Grace, a literacy journey. So today we're kind of doing a reveal. We're pulling back the curtain on two new initiatives that we're incredibly excited about. And these initiatives are, of course, through Angela Hanlin and Associates. The first is called the Instructional Focus Plan, and the second is the Instructional Excellence Academy. If you've listened to our podcast before, you've probably heard us talk about the science of reading, evidence-based instruction, explicit teaching, and the importance of strong leadership. But one of the biggest questions that we are constantly hearing from schools, from leaders, from educators is we understand the research, we know what we're supposed to do, but how do we actually make it happen? Right now, we've got this huge knowledge base, but we don't have the skills to apply. We understand, but we don't know how to truly make it happen. So today's conversation is all about that question. How do we make this happen? Okay? So we're going to talk about why these two resources were created, the problems they are designed to solve, and how they will support school leaders and teachers, hopefully during this upcoming school year. Okay, so Mother Dearest, we're going to start with the Instructional Focus Plan because this has been developing for quite a while. This has been a very big passion project for you. So first, just tell us, where did this idea come from?
So it came from being in schools.
Okay.
It came from being in schools. And, I will call you a lot in the evenings after leaving a school and not go through like any of the confidential information, but just talk to you in general about what I'm seeing.
Yes.
And it came from, I said what I was seeing in schools, but really what I wasn't seeing in schools. And what I saw was there was a lack of focus. There was a lack of focus. There wasn't a plan. There wasn't an intentional plan. And from the 6 years that I spent being a building principal, there has to be a very explicit, intentional plan for instruction for each year. Every school needs a very detailed instructional plan for what is going to be that focus. There should be an instructional focus every single year. If not, then you're just starting the year and kind of hoping for the best. And I got into schools, and when I started working with leaders, I would say, what is your focus this year? Specifically, what is your instructional focus? And it would kind of be silence. And this deer in the headlights said, and I might get something like, well, we want teachers to teach with more clarity. So we've thrown out, and they would say something like this, we've thrown out the word teacher clarity. Or, well, we want the teachers to teach more explicitly. So then I would follow up because, I've got to understand where they are, always where they are, so I know where to pick up and start. And I was okay, so what professional development has been given to the teachers? And it was normally there hadn't been any. And if you don't have a concrete plan, then you're just honestly hoping for the best. So the instructional focus plan is something that I've honestly been working on very intensely in the evenings and the weekends for a year and a half now. Because I thought, okay, so what is it that schools need? What does that plan need to look like? I went back, I had kept all the ones that I had from being a principal and superintendent, and I worked on those every summer. That was my time to plan and look at our end of year data, look at where we ended up. Where were we weak in instruction? What was the growth opportunity? And I would be giddy. It would always start the week after school ended. I would start then really planning that instructional focus plan. And I was so excited always each year to roll it out for the teachers. And that's honestly where it came from.
Okay, so one follow-up question, because I don't even know the answer to this. So is this something that you just as a leader naturally saw needed to be done, or was this a piece of advice that someone had given you? How did you come up with your first instructional focus plan that you implemented?
So it was roundabout thinking, if that makes sense. I had been an instructional coach. If you remember, before being a principal, I'd been an instructional coach for 3.5 years, and I had developed an instructional plan for what I was going to coach teachers on. And it began with clear learning intention. So now I know to call that teacher clarity. But at the time, it was just learning intention and success criteria from John Hattie's work. That and explicit instruction. And I really went armed with visible learning for teachers and Anita Archer's explicit instruction. And so I developed the plan every year. Then, as a principal, we were identified. I had written the instructional focus plan, but then it became more detailed because once we found out that we had been identified as a focus school, I wrote what was called a comprehensive school improvement plan.
Yes.
And you remember, I had been writing those, though, for schools that were just struggling. So what are the areas? Where are your biggest struggles at? And so what are the goals? What are your SMART goals then to improve those areas? I don't remember if anyone specifically told me that there needed to be an instructional focus plan. If anyone told me that, it could only be one of two people, and that would be Vicki Gibson or Jan Hasbrook. I know from Jan's work when I was a reading coach, she was, or an instructional coach, she was the person coaching me those 3.5 years. And I would talk to her, this is what I'm seeing in the classrooms. And we would kind of then identify, use the data. I would take the end of year benchmark and also the state assessments. And really look at from classroom observations, coaching teachers, professional development, and I would use it to plan that. Then after then learning the systems and structures piece, it became solidified for me after working with Schools Cubed.
Yep. So as someone who knows your brain and knows your thought process, I really do feel that this developed after you became such a devout studier of John Hattie's work and those questions. Where are we? Where are we going? And how are we going to get there? I feel like when you were asking yourselves these questions, you were like, okay, how are we going to get there? This is the plan. That's what the instructional focus plan is. It's how are we going to get there? I also just want to say, I always I forget that you were an instructional coach. And when you say 3.5 years, it always blows my mind because I feel like that was 6 seconds. I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe it's because of all the roles you've ever had. I was the least involved in that one.
With your age.
Yeah. I think that's what it is. But I'm always just oh, well, she did do that. Another thing that I want to say too is as someone who, I have those conversations with you regularly. I ate at the dinner table with you. I volunteered and helped at your school. I guess somewhere along the line, I just picked up that when you ended a school year, on the last day of school, you knew what the first day of school the following year was going to look like. And your kids, I remember, I loved this.
Every year.
Your kids never missed out on intervention because you had those beginning of year groups made based on the end of the year data. So
after our first year, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I thought you were done. After our very first year, we met as a building leadership team and identified the students based on end of year who would need intervention because there are schools that start 4 to 6 weeks before intervention starts because they're waiting for the beginning of your benchmark and after having the data team meetings and all that. And we're these kids need, we had to close the gap. But if you remember, we were committed, that building leadership team and staff, we were committed to every single student would reach grade level.
Oh, yes. Yes. So, and you made it happen.
Yeah. So we got to where by the last day of school, the teachers already had the instructional calendar for the next year, the instructional focus for the next year. All the data team meeting dates were already laid out. And when we would come back for those summer professional development days, I would revisit it with them and really go deeper with it. And then our back to school professional development days, that's when I would really start training the teachers in the building. But we did summer professional development, even though the other schools were not. And I didn't always even have a budget to pay them or anything, but still, they were so devoted to making the changes that they would come in.
It's like we always say that, like, whenever you end a lesson, you should say, like, tomorrow we're going to continue. Here's what we're going to do tomorrow. Well, if your students need that, then naturally your teachers need that too. On the last day of school, they need to know, okay, when you come back, here's where we're picking up. Here's what the next lesson is. And, so because I was so ingrained in that system, I then realized that not every school does that. And people, like, they would get offended. They would think I was being a know-it-all when people would present a problem to me and I would say, okay, so what's our plan? How are we going to fix that? Well, we're going to talk about that after school starts. After school starts? Well, you may as well not even talk about it at all. And so I finally got to where I just quit asking. And I would find on my own that once I got my class list, I would find on my own the data from the previous school year. If that meant I was walking to the data room and looking at their dot cards from the previous grade that they were in.
I remember you'd go ask for it. You'd start asking people
I
for
would.
it.
And then I would have groups made. And on the very first day, or, sometimes the first day is just get to know you. But within the very first week, I would have those groups set and I would start working with those kids. And one time someone asked me, they said, how are your students? How do you already have so many reading on grade level? Because we started 4 weeks before everyone else did.
Yeah.
That's why. Honestly, because on the first day of school, they learned what the word fluency means, how to achieve fluency, and how to become a dyad reading partner. And that was the basic entire day.
Day one. Yep. Day one.
Day one.
So with my brain, and part of it, you're right. I'm glad you brought out the John Hattie's questions, because once I found those questions,
yes,
it's really guided. I'm glad that's a smarter answer than the one I gave, because it's really guided every decision I've made in education since then. So thank you for pointing that out.
Of course.
Now that I think that way, when you walk into a school and there isn't a plan, and this is a whole other episode, but when they don't have the systems and structures, but when there's not even an instructional focus, it's apparent immediately. Mm-hmm. And I really, when you were asking how this came about, I just could not stand thinking of any school not having that. Because I got to thinking back of all the years I taught school, and there wasn't a plan. There wasn't a plan. Our back to school professional development and our first faculty meeting, there was nothing mentioned about instruction. We just went through the handbook, and it was all the duty schedule or something like that, but there was nothing talked about. And I'm not judging any leader that I had or anything like that. Please don't think that. But it's in hindsight, I thought we didn't have a plan. We just jumped into the school year and really kind of did the way we'd always been doing things. And I think that's
it. The plan was to teach.
Yeah, for teachers to go forth and teach. Well, but my mindset is we should all be constantly focused on progress, not perfection, but progress. It's not about are we perfect, but are we better than we were last year? Are we better in second quarter than we were in first quarter? Are we better in second semester than first semester? Is middle of year benchmark better than first?
So this
beginning of your benchmark.
This is an Angie Hanlin statement. Like, you could have this tattooed on your forehead. And I think it's maybe slightly traumatized me in my life, but it's better than our best.
Here we go, listeners. Here we go. Her therapy for how I've traumatized her.
Better than our best.
That comes from John Hattie, and I believe it's life-changing, and I believe every educator, really just in life in general, but for sure in education, which should guide our work better than our best. Because I said for years, Gretchen, to my students, I had this thing before they turned in any assessment or project. They had to come up and do a little conference with me. I was working on John Hattie's practice of assessment capable learners. And I would say to them, did you do your best? And I would say to them before they started. And you became friends with so many of my students, and I remember Maddie, I'm going to call out to Maddie and Madison always sat on the front row the whole year I had them. And one of the, like Maddie would be like, I don't know, did I do my best? And so then I realized I was saying the wrong thing to them after studying Hattie's work. If we've done our best, why would we do our best again? It should always be better. And I think that's beautiful. How would you say the word traumatized?
I mean, if that's the one thing that made me sweat through my shirt about your parenting, I think you've done a pretty good job. But
Thank
literally,
you for that.
The phrase better than our best, if anyone else also started sweating through their clothes and their palms got sweaty, I'm right there with you. Still,
but I did use it at home as well.
Yeah.
I did. Yes.
Yes. And so many people, and this is ridiculous. This wasn't you. This was me. But I always dressed up for school. And I never wore sweatpants. And like sweatpants were becoming the thing when I was in high school, like that laid back casual style. And they would always say, why do you not wear sweatpants? I only wear sweatpants on Sunday when I watch football with my family. And they would say, why? And I'd say, because when I come to school, I have to be successful. So I dress for success. If I'm in lazy clothes, my brain's going to be lazy. No wonder I didn't have a ton of people dying to be my friend.
So if better than our best caused that, I'm not even going to apologize for it. I think it's great.
Thank you. So moving on, another thing that you often say, knowing isn't doing. What do you mean by that?
Okay. You're right.
Me? Right? What?
What'd you say?
I said me? Right?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. I didn't know exactly how you were going to ask some of these questions today, so I like that you're throwing them out. I do say that all the time. Knowing isn't doing. I'm seeing right now, because so many states have had state mandates. Mm-hmm. For the states to adopt the science of reading. And some of them have said, you have to supply teachers, you have to provide training for teachers, you have to switch reading programs or something. And I'm seeing states in our country, we've invested millions of dollars into this, into training teachers in the science of reading. And I feel like, okay, now we know what works. Mm-hmm. But there's a problem to it because just because you know it does not know you know this key word. And the key word is implementation.
Yep.
So now I feel like now we're sitting on the brink of a problem
massive one. It's a massive one.
In schools and in education. Because now we have people who have this knowledge base, but they do not know how to implement that knowledge base. Mm-hmm. And they don't know what that looks like when implemented in a classroom. There are leaders that they've grown their knowledge base, but they don't know what that implementation looks like in their schools. So part of the problem is this: professional development alone does not change outcomes. Right. It doesn't change instructional outcomes. It does not change student outcomes. Implementation is what changes outcomes. So when I talk about implementation in the classroom, what I'm saying is teachers need to know how to do it. They don't need to know what it is, explicit instruction. They don't need to be given the definition. And that's where a lot of professional development stops. We tell teachers what something is, and that they need to do it, but we don't tell them how and we don't show them. It should always be showing them. We don't show them what it looks like when implemented. Teachers need to see it modeled and leaders as well. I really think all learners, honestly, Gretchen, they need to see it modeled.
Yes.
They need to have time to practice it in the professional development sessions, in those PLC times together, in the grade level meetings, whatever you call it. If you call it a PLC, if you call it content teams, grade level meetings, whatever you're calling the time of collaboration, teachers need time then to see that modeled, practice it. They need to get feedback on it. And then when they're actually implementing it, and this is where leadership is so critically important, that's when they're doing it in the classroom. That's when they need feedback, specific feedback, so they can refine their craft over time and really figure out if they're implementing it correctly. And I think we're just doing a disservice to teachers, to leaders, and to schools in general because we aren't doing that. We aren't showing them. We're not modeling it. We're not really going deep into the implementation part. That's why, and now it just literally just now dawned on me. I even did the instructional focus plan with this podcast because I said this year's focus was going to be all about implementation because that's where we have to get to. We can't say, well, I know the science of reading. Okay, but what's it look like implemented? Well, yes, you can quiz someone on explicit instruction and ask them even maybe what the look fors are, and they might be able to answer and get a 100 on that quiz, but can they go in their classrooms and actually make that happen? And principals, if they know that these things are supposed to happen, teacher clarity, explicit instruction, learning intentions, success criteria, teachers should be sharing the relevance of a lesson. Do they know what that looks like and sounds like in the classroom? And if they aren't seeing it implemented, do they know what to do next? And that is really how we got around to the instructional focus plan, because that's going to help leaders do it.
Right. And I just want to highlight another part of this problem. The science of reading has become a buzzword. It has become a buzzword. It has become a catchphrase.
And I don't like that.
No,
that bothers me deeply.
But, so I think part of the reason that you've done this is because you don't want the science of reading to, I guess, become what other educational buzzwords have, where they're so misunderstood, they're not implemented, and then it becomes more harmful than it has been helpful. So you already probably know what I'm going to say, but the number one that I have said to you so many times, I wish this had never become a buzzword. I wish we had never said it in the field of education.
Well, I've got now, this will be my 30th year in education. Mm-hmm. And the problem is there's this word that I don't even like anymore, but initiatives come out. Initiatives come out. And I have seen so many pendulum swings as a teacher from the State Department of Education. And it would be this initiative and this initiative. And then, you do something for 4 years and it would completely shift. And then you'd go to something else. And then you do that 3 to 4 years and it would completely shift. My biggest fear right now, and I actually lose sleep over this, and I talk to my close friends in the field about this all the time. My biggest fear is this right here. That we go 3, 4, 5 years down the road and schools start saying, we did the science of reading. We did that. It didn't work. It didn't change scores. And that is where I am so passionate because, Gretchen, that's what I don't want to happen. But did you really, first of all, you don't do the science of reading, but did you really implement? And so then I've also seen, and we talked about just in our last episode with Justin Browning, that schools will buy a reading program and think, okay, well, we fixed the problem. No, you didn't, because do we know how to implement? It's really going back to, and I talked a lot about this with Dr. Reed Lyon in his 3-part series, but it's the implementation. And so it kills me that I don't want this to be this thing that comes and goes, because this is the work that we need to be doing in schools. This is the work. We don't ever have to look for our next initiative. We don't have to look for the next big thing. It isn't one more thing, it's the thing, and this is it.
So I wasn't quite done.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. It was great. And it kind of goes along with what you were saying. But no, okay. So the example I was going to give, the phrase that, in my opinion, got so botched and that people just totally misunderstood. And, in some ways it became more harmful than helpful, was when we said your principal needs to be an instructional leader. That is 100% true. They do. But so many leaders heard that and quit handling discipline. Oh, I'm supposed to be an instructional leader. I can't handle discipline. You need to take care of that in the classroom. I've had that happen to me.
I do want to throw this out.
Hold on, please, just let me speak.
Go ahead.
I also have so many friends in education that has happened to, and it's not correct. And I've had to remind myself, and I've had to remind others, your principal should be, an instructional leader. That is a beautiful thing, and that is 100% true. We cannot become disappointed or bitter with that phrase just because it wasn't implemented or it wasn't done correctly. Okay. Because I understand that, yes, the office should be a positive place. It should be where learning is celebrated. It shouldn't be negative all the time. But also, if a kid throws a desk, please don't look at a teacher and say, oh, I can't take care of that. I'm the instructional leader.
Those are, I would hope, rare examples. I would hope.
You're so graceful. So sweet.
I would hope that those are rare examples, but I believe that so often in education, the point you're making is we hear a phrase and we don't fully implement it correctly.
Yeah.
And we just cling to the words of something. And it's very similar to when a lot of people heard the science of reading. So we said the science of reading and they heard teach phonics.
Yes.
Very similar. Yeah, very, very similar. And so you absolutely, which this should probably be a different episode, but you've hit upon something. There are instructional leaders that will say to me, well, I don't know how to be an instructional leader and still run the building. Well, you absolutely can do that. Well, if I'm only supposed to be in classrooms, I mean, there are people who've said, well, who's supposed to do all the other jobs? It's not saying that you stop doing the other things. It's saying that should be your priority.
Right.
So I get what you're saying.
Yes.
And just to all the listeners out there, there's a little bit of Miss Gretchen Unfiltered. So
you're welcome, everyone.
Yeah.
Thank you for being
here. Got a lot of people in Western New York. They're probably enjoying that right there. Yeah.
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 But okay, so we've given a broad overview of the instructional focus plan. We know that's a plan that's going to guide your focus for instruction throughout the year. It's going to help you meet that goal. It's going to help you accomplish what it is that you've set out to do. Now, I want some nitty-gritty details. What are some specific things that you find in this instructional focus plan? Because I know, I've seen it, I've seen you implement them. I know that this thing basically takes care of every minute of every day for you. I really want you to dive into that and tell people what exactly it is that they are getting when they have the Angela Hanlin and Associates instructional focus plan.
Well, one, it is the focus for instruction for your year. It's the plan that you're going to focus on to improve instruction for the year. If you want to boil it down to one word, here it is. It's a roadmap.
Okay.
That's the word. It is a roadmap. It is a very clear roadmap, and it takes you through 6 focus areas that when you take them in order, you will be able to change and transform instruction. And you begin with focus area 1, and that's teacher clarity. That is where you start. Tell students what they're going to learn and how they will know that they've learned it. And then it goes much deeper. I am very, very, very much simplifying that. But it begins with teacher clarity. Then it goes into focus areas 2 and 3 that are explicit instruction. And the first one, the second focus area, is explicit instruction, the design, because that is the biggest thing I'm seeing that's missing in classrooms is that explicit design of a lesson. This goes deep into teaching teachers how to do that. I'll explain that more in just a minute, the how. Then you go into the explicit instruction, the delivery. So now that we have the explicit lesson plan, how do we deliver that lesson? Well, one of the key parts of explicit delivery is eliciting frequent student responses. But again, we can say the phrase elicit student responses or elicit frequent student responses, but teachers still don't know exactly how to do that. What does that look like? How do I do it? When do I do it? When do I do a choral? What?
Is it verbal or written?
Right. Yeah. When do I do a choral response? Because there's a time when you should do a choral response. Then there's a time when you should do a turn and talk. There's a deeper part, though. If you really want deeper thinking, then you should amp it up one and go to a think, pair, share. So it guides teachers through that. Then focus area 4 is eliciting frequent student responses. And they not only are taught how to do this, there are training videos of me actually doing it. The 5th focus area is less teacher talk, more student talk. When I first heard that from Vicki Gibson, when she was training me, when I first heard from Gibson Hasbrook, teachers needed to talk less, students needed to talk more for the data to go up. I thought it was the craziest thing I'd ever heard. And I said to Dr. Gibson, how's that going to work if I am the teacher and the educator in the room? Should I not be doing most of the talking? And I'll never forget her response, not if you want the scores to go up.
Yep.
Because talking mastery comes through that conversation piece. And so it really teaches teachers how to do that. And then it goes into that 6th one, which we cannot transform instruction without this focus area 6, and that is evidence-based instructional practices. So what it does for the leader is it lays out that plan. For every single focus area, the leader would then have a video, and they are all 60 to 90 minutes, depending upon the focus area. They watch that themselves, but then they also view it and go through it with their building leadership teams or their school leadership teams. And so then the school leadership team, they're helping lead that focus area for the next 6 to 8 weeks, because these are broken up. You can do it one of 2 ways. You can do all 6 in a year, or you can divide it and do 3 year 1 and 3 on year 2. And if you do it 3 year 1, 3 year 2, then you go through year 1, then you make it through teacher clarity, the explicit instruction, the design, and explicit instruction delivery. And that alone will increase learning in all of your classrooms. So then it drills down deeper. So that's the clear instructional focus. But then, Gretchen, it goes month by month. And if that's not enough, it goes week by week. Every single month, there are activities to bring this focus to life for every faculty meeting. Yes. There are actual activities. Here is what you do in your faculty meeting with your teachers for this to come to life. And these are all things that I have done in my faculty meetings as principal or superintendent. So these are not hearsay. These are activities that actually work. But then if all of that's not enough, you get another resource embedded, and it's called the leadership lens, which goes deeper. And it's what the leader, I always want leaders to build what I call a leadership lens. And so it's what they need to be looking through that leadership lens every single week. And it gives them an instructional tip to share with their teachers every single week. So everyone's on the same page. And what we're doing then is we are professionally developing the teachers and also the leaders through the process every single week, every single month.
Brilliant. It's brilliant. And I just want to make the point that, like, this is so in depth. And so many times in education, we hear that something is in depth and then we get it and it's like 3 pages long. No, this is like massive. Like, this is literally like every moment planned out for you. And I just want to
Everything.
say, when you said this aloud on this podcast, I realize what you've done, and it's genius, and I love it, and I wish I was in the same room with you.
Oh,
So, you said there are the 6 areas,
yes.
and you said you can choose to do 3 year 1 and 3 year 2. Oh, no one's going to get to do that thing where they look at you and say, "Oh, that's too much for us right now. We can't get all that done in one school
Nope,
year."
because nope, you get the option. You get the option.
I love it.
You cannot say, "Oh, we can't do all that in a year. We can't put that much upon our staff." Nope, nope, not an option. I took that away. You can do a 1 year or you can do a 2 year. And then it also, for every single focus area, because so many leaders don't know what that looks like in the classroom, it gives them a mini walkthrough tool that has nothing to do with evaluation. It's strictly for the principal to go in and see, are they seeing it?
Yeah, so
So,
that's one thing that we really need to highlight right now, the difference between an evaluation and a walkthrough.
oh man, that could be a series of episodes because, I'm not even a big fan. This may gain me people, this may get people on my back. I don't even like the whole teacher evaluation thing because I think it's our job as leaders to get every teacher to the highest level of effectiveness. And if they don't get there, I feel it's our fault.
Mhm.
So evaluate them. I think we need to evaluate ourselves. How are we getting our staff? I mean, are the teachers feeling more knowledgeable and do they feel better about their craft? And if not, I'm evaluating myself. I feel that I have failed. So, but this gives many walkthroughs just for a few things to go in. Then it gives even feedback suggestions for the coaching and the support and the follow through that can be given to those teachers so that this really becomes put into place. So what it does is it gives consistency and it gives clarity. It really gives clarity to the leader. They can order it right now and they can start studying it. But because I don't want this messed up, it's a one and done. So you can order this through September 1st because schools can't start this November, December, January. So if they don't do it they'll be waiting then for the second year of it because every single month I will do a coaching call. The first of the month, I will do a 90-minute coaching call with schools where they can talk to me. They'll be able to submit their questions beforehand. Where are you struggling? I will address those things. I'll have all their questions beforehand and I will address those things and take them deeper. This is where you should be. This is what you should be seeing. And I will give more coaching and support literally the entire year. So another part of it was, as you know, I have a lot of schools on a waiting list, a lot. And the longer that waiting list got, the more upset I became of I cannot stand. Oh, gonna try not to get choked up. I can't stand that if a teacher or a principal wants help that I couldn't get to them. But one person. So what was something that I could put in the hands of leaders to help them do this work, even if I wasn't on site? And this is the roadmap for how to do this work, but you still get the coaching and support from me on a monthly basis.
I just want to say that if you guys are watching this and not just listening and you saw me kind of turn away for a moment, I just made a note on something I'm going to include in the tell-all episode, and it's just phenomenal.
I saw you writing something down. I thought maybe it was something I said that was really, really good. Maybe you wanted to remember it for life. No? No? Okay.
That's a different notebook. Okay. So now, when we talk about these instructional focus areas, I don't want that to become misconstrued. I don't want people to think, oh, this year my instructional focus is teaching cause and effect. Like, nope, that's not really what we're getting into. So, what are some examples of true instructional focus areas?
Well, you should start with teacher clarity. And so the thing is, do the students know what they're learning? And it sounds so simple. But if the students do not know what they should be learning for the lesson, how on earth are they going to learn it?
They aren't.
When I heard it from John Hattie, the light bulb went on. I had never, from college, I had never planned a lesson plan without a learning objective, ever. Even when I had the red, this is going to show how old school I am. The old red lesson planners that we all had, we all had matching ones, and they had the blocks that went. I always started objective, colon, and I wrote my objective there. What I failed to do for so many years was it was my objective for the lesson, and it wasn't the students.
Mm-hmm.
And that is where I found out teacher clarity is student clarity. That
Right.
We may have named it wrong, because when the teacher is so clear in what the students need to learn, the students become clear on it. And so it's telling them what they're going to learn and not just saying it once and forgetting it, doing a little and then saying, stop. What did we just do? Okay, so if it is finding key details in text, let's just say that that's the standard, that is the learning intention for the day. So then the success criteria, students will be able to answer questions and find key details from the text. Okay, maybe our evidence of that is they're going to be able to answer questions inside evidence, text evidence. So if I then ask a question and it's an inference, and you have to use text evidence to prove an inference, because an inference isn't given word for word, but there's enough information in the text to figure it out. So as soon as they've answered that question, I stop. I point back. I always want them written and posted. I point back at that learning intention right then. Okay, stop. What did we just do? I asked you a question. It was an inference. You beat the students. Everybody, what was it? It was an inference. That's right. It was an inference. Okay. Sorry, I should have been more clear in my directions. Clear. So it's an inference. Look back at the learning intention right now. That is what we're doing. Okay, so let's go to the next paragraph and let's see if we can do another one. And making it that clear to the students. So I made a mistake as an instructional coach and also a principal. When I first would go into rooms, I would say, what are you doing? What are you doing right now? And it needs to be, what are you learning? Mm-hmm. And the more I became knowledgeable, the more knowledgeable I became about teacher clarity, students must be able to state what they're learning, why they're learning it, and how they will know that they've learned it. And it completely shifts everything in class and in a classroom. And that's why we start there. And then we move into explicit instruction, because then for the students to reach that success criteria, the thing that takes them from just having that learning intention to the students actually meeting the success criteria is we have the tool to get them there is explicit instruction. So that's why we move into that one next.
Okay, so here are some options. Schools can focus on explicit instruction, teacher clarity, learning intentions and success criteria, student engagement, literacy instruction, or evidence-based instructional practices. And the point that we really want to drive home is the key is choosing one area and committing to it long enough to see results. So often we have like initiative vomit and we're just throwing so many things here and there, but we want, and I'm not going to use the word fidelity, but we want to be true to one area that we are choosing and committing and making sure that we're giving it all that we have, so that not only do we see results, but the results are positive and they're tangible. We can see these results, we can feel these results. The learning is there. We have true data.
And there is a roadmap. So the roadmap gives you the order. So you actually work through these in order.
Yes.
You work through these in order and you stay on the one until you see it in practice.
Right.
So that's where, if it takes you a year and a half or 2 years, that is okay. Because I'm not saying, 4 to 6 weeks, you should have it mastered.
Right.
Different schools are at different places. With John Hattie's first question, where are we? But everyone begins with teacher clarity, then they move into explicit instruction. So they do one focus at a time. They work straight through the roadmap, and it helps them then transform instruction.
Yes, and I want to say too, these pieces build upon each other. So you have to have one before the other. So for example, you have to have teacher clarity before you're going to have high student engagement. It's just that simple. Yep. Okay, so we've talked a lot about the instructional focus plan, but if you remember what I said at the beginning of this episode, we're also going to talk about the Instructional Excellence Academy, and I'm excited because I had a role in this one.
You sure did.
And I was the cheerleader, but I mean, man, for this part, like I was in it. I was on the field. I was playing.
You were.
So the Instructional Focus Plan helps leaders lead the work. That's great.
Absolutely. Yep.
But we've also been talking a lot about supporting teachers directly. Okay, so is that where the idea for the Instructional Excellence Academy came from? Really supporting teachers.
Yeah, teachers just kept asking for more and more and more.
Yep.
One, they had not gotten it in college and they were not getting it in their schools.
Yes.
And the majority of teachers that I see and meet at, whether it be at conferences or the ones I'm working with, they just want to have a greater impact in their classrooms on the lives of their students. And they're spending so many hours of time.
Yep.
They are giving up nights. They're spending summers. They're spending so much time, and they're either not getting the right coaching. They're not getting enough professional development. They're not getting quality instructional coaching, really showing them what to do. So it came from that. This was really a request from teachers to learn more. So how could we do that? Mm-hmm. So we wanted to literally open ourselves up to teachers as coaches, honestly, as coaches, for the teachers to get more, because teachers would attend a workshop, especially if I was speaking like at a conference, at a national conference, and they would say, this is so great, but I need more. Well, but what do I do next? So we want this to be ongoing support, practical strategies, give them resources to actually go implement in their classrooms. But we also wanted a community of educators coming together, learning together to just improve their craft. This is not saying that you're not a good teacher. This is actually saying you're a darn good teacher, and you care so much, you want to be even better.
Yes.
So this can be for a first-year teacher. It can be for a veteran teacher. I often have veteran teachers that say, I wish I had known this, something they've just learned. I wish I had known this 10 years ago. I wish I had known this 15 years ago. So this is for any teacher who just really wants to take a year and dedicate it to learning more about the art and craft of teaching, which you and I love to study, learn about, and talk about.
Which I just have to say, um, you know, so your your perspective, because we are coming at this excellence academy from two different perspectives. So you
Yeah.
have the perspective of a teacher who was devoted to teaching, who loved teaching, who wanted to do more. So you're coming as the veteran teacher. I am coming as I spent a lot of time in college studying so I would know what to do the first year I hit the classroom. I wanted to have those best practices. I didn't want to be able to say at the end of my first year, well, I didn't know what I didn't know when your kids suffered. That was not going to be good enough for me because, better than our best. So I am the most excited for new teachers to be able to participate in this and to not develop any, not necessarily bad habits, but poor teaching habits. Can you imagine being able to start on the right foot
Yeah.
and not
Yeah.
having to say, oh, I didn't learn this in college? Who cares? Let me give this to you now.
And I think that is where you are coming from for all of this, is because you know that teachers aren't getting it in college, and you don't want any teacher to not know what to do in the classroom, because you were constantly asking me, constantly,
Mhm.
what's the next book I need to read, Mom, in college?
Yeah.
What's the next book I need to read? What's something I have to read to be a successful teacher? Who's the next person I need to know about? Who's
Yes.
the next literacy expert? What are the articles that I need to be reading? And you really wanted to learn. And I know that you don't want any teacher to be wanting that and not have
Not
that.
have it. And
Yeah.
it's one of those things I want to say I was very lucky. As far as like education programs go, mine could have been a lot worse. I was very fortunate. I had some really amazing professors who didn't shut me down when I asked questions, and they would say, "You know what? You're right. I wish that was in our curriculum too." But it's
Yeah.
not. But what are some things that we could do to help others learn this, and that was wonderful. But another thing too is so often new teachers are thrown in and it is baptism by fire.
Yeah.
And
You're
it is
right.
the saddest thing I've ever seen. And people say, why is there such burnout in education right now? Well, that's why, because the first year on the job is hell on earth for some of these people because they are not prepared. And I want to take that away. I want it to go back to feeling honored to be an educator, feeling honored to have this role, not being beat down and thinking, I can't do this. You
Yeah.
know, I want this work to be fulfilling. I don't want it to take away from your life. I want it to add to your life. And so that's why I feel that it's so important that this is truly by teachers for teachers. So, like when we do this, you are taking off your superintendent and your leader
Yeah.
hat, and you are going back to we are talking about the classroom.
Yeah.
That's my favorite side of you. So others that haven't really known, like Angie Hanlin from when she was in the classroom, I'm really excited for people to get to see that. And so another thing, you had mentioned that I was always asking you, like, well, what books can I be reading? What can I be doing? And one of the best things that you said to me, you said, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. Right now, you don't have the time to read this. So I'm going to read it and I'm going to share the knowledge with you.
I
And that
did.
is what I get to do now.
Yeah.
You are a teacher. You have a family to go home to at night. Let me take some of the burden off of you.
Yeah.
One, you probably can't afford to buy all the books that you need to read because we all know that we don't have the best pay. Okay. But let's not even get into that. And then two, you're exhausted at the end of the day. So let
Yeah.
me put in that work for you. And you come and we're going to build this community and we are going to give you that knowledge. And we're also going to give you a sense of empowerment. And for those of you who don't have collective efficacy in your building, my heart breaks for you because I've been there, I've lived it, and I'm sick of it. So if you don't have collective efficacy in your building, I'm going to give that to you here. because you deserve
You'll find it here.
it.
Yeah, you will. You'll find it here. And thanks for saying that. My favorite role that you're, how'd you say it? That the favorite role is teacher.
Yes.
That's my favorite role too. Um, I always say I don't think I ever would have left the classroom. I was pulled out of the classroom to be an instructional coach. And I honestly think I would have retired right there because I absolutely love to teach. It was part of why, as an instructional coach, principal, and even superintendent, I modeled in classrooms all the time
Yes.
because I absolutely had to have that connection and feel. And if I was ever having a bad day, if anything ever happened as a principal or superintendent, there were classrooms. I had certain rooms in the building or district that I would go into and like go take a 30, 40, 45-minute break. I've got to teach kids. Hand me your book and let me start teaching. But I truly feel that there is an art and a craft and a science to teaching. And I remember finding it, and it transformed my students' lives. And so that's the gift that I want us to share with teachers and go on that journey, that true learning journey with them. And, we've gotten a lot of questions from a podcast episode too, where teachers were saying they wanted more. And this, they're going to get so much more because just like the instructional focus plan will be a 90-minute meeting once a month, we will have a 90-minute coaching call for a topic. They'll go from August through May in our Instructional Excellence Academy, and we'll guide them through transforming teaching. And this will be, we'll do this for many years, but this will be year one, cohort one. We'll start with cohort one.
Don't you just want to be a part of it? Don't you just want to say you were in the initial Instructional Excellence Academy? Don't you want to be a first edition? I mean, come on. Isn't that magical?
Sounds great, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. Okay, so now let's talk about what will teachers learn. This is not going to be, okay, so here's a sticker chart that you can use.
It is not.
Here. Do you have a visual schedule in your classroom? That's not what this is.
Nope.
Okay. If you have a visual schedule, those are wonderful. And that was not the point I'm trying to make. It's just, I feel like so often people feel like that's the Band-Aid for everything. And it's not. So Mom, please tell us, what are we going to learn?
All right. So we will be focusing on the instructional practices that matter the most. And to start the school year off, we're going to talk about classroom management, behavior supports, and instructional routines.
Yes.
Because the way you start your year off by establishing those classroom instructional routines, it makes or breaks the entire year. Routine, routine, routine. Consistency, consistency, consistency. Children thrive on it. Students of any age. I don't care if you are in preschool or high school and you've taught preschool and you've taught high school and you had clear instructional routines. They knew how to sharpen a pencil. They knew how to walk in. They knew what they did first, second, third, fourth, everything. So that's where we'll start. We will take them through the big 5 of literacy. The state of New York calls that the big 6 because they've added something that's critically important. I wish everyone would add it, oral language. So we're going to take them through, oh, there's that grin. I know it's one of your favorites. So we'll take them through that and Scarborough's Row, but not just what it is. And that's where this will really be different. So we'll go through those components, fluency, comprehension, of those, the big 5, and the different strands of Scarborough's Row. But we will teach teachers what that looks like to implement in the classroom. We will also, of course, hit explicit instruction with lesson design, lesson delivery. We will give out some samples of lesson plan templates that you and I have used with great effectiveness that are very easy and simple and make planning, I think, an art form. Personally, I know I'm biased, but we'll also hit, of course, teacher clarity and how, not what it is. all of this to all the teachers listening is not going to be what it is. It's how to do it, how to implement it. Then we're going to go into something that's really, really, really missing, and that's text structure.
Yes.
Teaching text structure and
All
drilling
grade levels.
deeply,
All
all
grade.
grade levels, drilling deeply into comprehension. Because I think that, like we said earlier, when we heard the science of reading, we said the science of reading, a lot of people heard teach phonics. They went deep into, and I don't judge anybody, I'm not judgmental, but I'm not critiquing. I don't like to judge or critique. But there are classrooms where teachers are spending 30 minutes, 20 to 30 minutes on phonemic awareness, then another 30, 40, 50 on phonics. And the thing that is dropping by the wayside, unfortunately, is going through a test with students and actually reading real text, talking about text, breaking down the text structure. Then we'll teach all the different ways to get students engaged. And the biggest lever is explicit instruction. But then one of the things where I get a ton of questions on is how to differentiate instruction and how to intervene. And so we'll spend the latter part of the year on those things. We'll guide them through the others first. And so there will be the 90-minute call when we will first give the training on it, put teachers in breakout rooms, let them talk, bring them back together. We will talk about specific examples. We will share specific examples. We will have made some video clips to share with teachers, that sort of thing. Then though, there will be tons of resources and things that they can go then try immediately in their classroom. They can also, there will be the option for them to even record a lesson, watch it themselves, or send it to us, let them give feedback. But I'm very excited about there will be activities that they can do throughout the year. And it's not going to be extra time. This is not taking on a college class.
No.
This is not with assigned reading. This is not with, okay, you've got to read 6 books. We're not embarking on a book study. This is come to us, get 90 minutes of intense coaching every single month. Go try it. Tell us throughout the month what your questions are. Send those to us. Where are you struggling? What went well? Come back together every single lesson, like a lesson each time. What went well? What are the struggles? Let's break that down some more, and then let's go deeper to that next level of learning.
And so, in the first section where you said we're going to be giving the information, we're going to be providing the instruction.
Yeah.
So first, okay, just quickly give me a topic that we might focus on.
Okay, so let's say that it is, because one of them is explicit instruction, lesson design.
So what we're going to do is at the beginning of that lesson, definitions are done. We are going to show you how to explicitly design a lesson. If there's an expert that we think is really strong in that, we're going to bring them in and have them join us. Okay, so let's say fluency. Fluency, we're obviously including Dr. Jan Hasbrook.
She'll be there. She's already agreed. She'll be there.
It's not going to be 2 hours of just listening to the three of us speak. No, it's going to be a quick, okay, here's what you need to do. Now let's talk about how to make it happen. It's going to be very hands-on. It's not going to be a sit and get, No. Because one of the things is we want this to be different from traditional professional development. We want you to be engaged in your learning like we want our students to be engaged. We want you to be able to walk away. And I mean, you guys, us, that we're going to have our learning intention and success criteria for every single meeting, and we're going to reflect on them and see where we are and have we mastered this success criteria? Do we need more work? It's just going to be beautiful. So, Mom, which piece are you most excited about for the Instructional Excellence Academy?
Working directly with teachers and actually really getting to drill down deeper because it'll be a year-long effort instead of like a one-time PD event.
Mm-hmm.
You know, think about how many questions you can have after. I mean, I love going to conferences. I've always loved going to conferences, but you might go to a breakout session with someone for 60 minutes. At the most, you might get like a 90-minute keynote, or even if you're lucky enough to have a really high quality speaker and you have them for a day. How many questions do you have though once you go implement it in your classroom?
So many.
So many. And so when the rubber hits the road and when you're actually doing the work and you need that coaching and feedback, okay, like I've done this, I've tried this, but here are the questions I have.
Mm-hmm.
I remember not having a go-to person for that. And I remember asking Dr. Vicki Gibson if she would be that for me. And she oh so graciously agreed to do it for free. And so I had that person, that go-to person. But I mean, there are teachers too that even though there are instructional coaches in the building, often the coaches are doing half-day intervention or they are working with all the different grade levels and they don't get a lot of that quality time. And two, we'll give so many examples.
Mm-hmm.
Like on the lesson planning, well, good grief, Gretchen. If we just use your career, you could give a 4K, a first grade, a fourth grade, a sixth grade, 10, 11, 12. I mean, you know what I'm saying? I could give third, fourth, and fifth from teaching, and then second from student teaching and filling in for teachers. Did a long term leave in fourth. I mean, taught fourth grade for a year. So we really have, and was an instructional coach, K-12, but so well, it won't just be, oh, you get one example. Like we'll give a wealth of examples, and that's where they can break off into the breakout rooms by grade level, or not grade level, but K2 through 5, middle school, high school, however we have them split up.
Yep.
Depends upon the number of teachers. And then actually, okay. And so then have people leading those breakout rooms and going in and talking and coming back together. And then they've got then follow up that they can go in and really try and come back together for more coaching and support. And they will be able to send us questions throughout the month. And that is where you come into play. I started saying Miss Hanlon, Miss Goettl, where you will be answering their questions of, I've tried it, now what? Gretchen. And so that's where they'll have access to you to really give them that support. And then
When you ask your questions, I want to stress, I know that sometimes I can be the little like fired up grit. I will be graceful when you ask your questions. There will never be a question that I think is too simple or too dumb or a question that I think is too complicated. You are able to ask whatever you need to ask, and I will do my best to answer you.
when you are working with other teachers, you are incredibly graceful. When you're in a meeting with me or conversation with me, that's when you get a little gritty and a little spicy. But yes, teachers, just know she's incredibly kind, graceful, supportive, ask any of her coworkers. She's incredibly kind and graceful. You love to help. You
Oh, I
love to
do.
help.
I do
You
love to
love to help and you
I
love
do.
to coach.
I
Now,
do.
another thing that I'm super excited about is the guest speakers who will be appearing throughout the year who are willing to step in and help hold on some friends. And they are going to, I mean, when we talk about read alouds and bringing read alouds to life, why would we not bring in Dr. Molly Ness? Why would
Mhm.
we not do that when we're talking about drilling into comprehension? Why wouldn't we tap into her brilliance? And she's graciously agreed. So, what are you most excited about?
I am most excited to be able to give to people what I had to find on my own. To just
Oh,
take away that barrier and just give them the information and help them grow. I'm also most excited because, I said earlier, teachers, they have a life after school, and I want
yeah.
them to be able to go home and enjoy time with their family. And so I'm taking away that stress for them, but I'm also taking away the stress for myself. And I'm making this my full time job rather than trying to do both, be in my own classroom, but help others in theirs. And so now I'm just fully, I feel, dedicating myself to the people. So,
Yeah.
and I'm very excited to be able to serve others and serve their classrooms, because to me, it really came down to I can stay in the classroom and impact 20 kids a year, or I can do this and help 20 classrooms or more a
Yeah.
year. And so, I'm just very, very excited to, like I said, help others expand their teaching craft, but also expand their confidence as a
Yeah.
teacher. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
Okay.
remember
So,
finding mine. I remember finding my confidence and getting in that zone. And I remember watching you. And so, yeah, I want every teacher to feel that. What did you start to say? You said
okay.
so.
So, once again, referring back, we've talked about the instructional focus plan. We've talked about the Instructional Excellence Academy. Now, I want us to talk about how these two initiatives work together.
So these are really two resources that we're offering to schools. The instructional focus plan helps leaders create clarity and gives them the direction for the entire year, 2 school years. I mean, they can take that plan and use it multi-years.
Mm-hmm.
The Instructional Excellence Academy helps teachers strengthen those instructional practices needed to bring that instructional focus plan to life.
Yes.
So the instructional focus plan really gives the leader and that building leadership, the members of the building leadership team, clarity, focus, coherence, some of my favorite words, and direction, the roadmap of how to do it. The Instructional Excellence Academy will help teachers go deeper and to really refine the craft. So if they are in a school that's using the instructional focus plan, they'll be hearing about teacher clarity. They will, and they'll be getting that weekly tip. They'll get another 90-minute dose, though, from us and talk about ways, and you'll give examples, I'll give examples, multi-grade levels, what that looks like, how to do it. So one will really support the leadership. One will go deeper and support that classroom implementation. But together, these two resources will really help schools move from knowing to doing. And that's where we started. That knowing isn't always doing, knowing is not doing, but we want them to go from knowing to doing. And both of these resources together will really, really help schools and teachers be able to do that and transform instruction, because it is instruction that changes students' lives and changes the outcomes.
Okay, so what do you hope educators take away from today's conversation?
We need implementation. We've got to stop saying, well, I know that. Okay. What's it look like in the classroom though? We don't need one more thing thrown at a school. We don't need one more thing to roll out from a State Department. We don't need initiative fatigue and initiative overload. We know what works. We don't have to reinvent this. There is a roadmap and we get it from science. So the question becomes then, are we willing to focus? Are we willing to focus? Are we willing to implement? Are we willing to stay the course? It's about consistency. I have seen so many schools start off so strong with
Yes.
one clear focus. And they tell their teachers, this is the only thing we're going to talk about this year. They say that in August. And by January, they're on their 13th thing that they're bringing in. This will stop that. It will give a true focus. It will help leaders and teachers stay the course. And it will support educators long enough beyond one session, long enough to truly make the lasting change that's sustainable in every single classroom, because I feel every single student deserves excellent instruction every single day.
Yes.
not by chance, but by design.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what these two resources are designed to support and to actually show schools how to implement that in their classrooms and schools every single day. I hope that answers your question.
It did, more than answered. Thank you.
You're
Okay, so
welcome.
everyone, once again, Instructional Focus Plan, Instructional Excellence Academy, we're giving this to you. These are
They're
things that
available now.
Yep.
Available now on the website.
We
Go to
have-
the website. You can sign up for both of these and purchase right now, but it's limited. Sorry to interrupt. It is limited because these are going to roll out in August. So it's now is the time. Go ahead. Sorry. Keep going.
It's okay. You kind of took a lot of what I was going to say.
Okay, I interrupted.
But anyway, we have seen the need and we are trying to meet the need. When we see a problem, we don't just stand around and talk about the problem. We come up with a solution and we want to fix the problem. And so that's what we're doing here for leaders and for teachers. And we hope that you will be a part of this journey with us. So please reach out to your leaders, reach out to teachers that you know, and tell them about these opportunities. And it doesn't need to be oh my gosh, it's terrible, we need to do this. No, like we said, this can be a positive, like, okay, let's take this a step further. Let's make sure that these things are happening, that we're putting our money where our mouth is, that we are implementing. Let's make sure that we are doing everything we can to the fullest potential. Let's make sure that we are better than our best.
Exactly. Thank you for throwing that in there. Exactly. Way to go, Gretch.
Yes. So once again, this is an Angela Hanlin and Associates production. And until next time, keep leading with grit, teaching with grace, and believing that it is possible. Thank you for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Grit and grace, that's how we grow. Step by step and child by child, we know. There's power in the words we say. We lift the voices like the way. Grit and grace, it's a journey we all share. For every child, everywhere.